Climate change is the biggest threat to security that modern humans have ever faced. Humans have caused major climate changes to happen already, and we have set in motion more changes still. These are extraordinary times, and the evidence we're already seeing around the globe is proof. Extreme heat waves. Rising temperatures across the globe poses a threat to people, ecosystems, and the economy. Flood-inducing precipitation in many areas. Climate change is making extreme flooding worse. Scientists alike deliberate and agree that there is a clear link between extreme precipitation occurring and climate change. Extended droughts. This extreme weather event can be linked to climate change and has been quietly afflicting the countries across the globe with no signs of letting up and at risk of becoming permanent, widespread drought. Violent tropical cyclones and hurricanes. We now know that the rainfall from Hurricane Harvey was 15% more intense and 3 times as likely to occur due to human-induced climate change. We expect to see a higher frequency of Category 4 and 5 storms as temperatures continue to rise. The disappearance of sea ice and snow cover. A newly published paper says climate change caused by humans is responsible for more than half of the wholesale melting of sea ice in the Canadian Arctic and Greenland. And the melting of permafrost. The Arctic is warming at a rate of almost twice the global average. The vanishing of Arctic sea ice is a particularly dire indicator of the trouble we're in. Ice levels in the region vary throughout the year. The great white cap that once covered the top of the world is now turning blue, a change that represents humanity's most dramatic step in reshaping the face of our planet. And with the steady disappearance of the polar ice cover, we are losing a vast air conditioning system that has helped regulate and stabilize Earth's climate system for thousands of years. All of these trends will get unavoidably worse. A catastrophic possibility involving the total collapse of the Arctic ice sheet or abrupt changes in the circulation of ocean waters would trigger rapid and massive swings of sea level rising between 6 to 12 inches over the next 25 years. In the United States alone, almost 40% of the population lives in relatively high population density coastal areas, where sea level plays a role in flooding, shoreline erosion, and hazards from storms. Globally, 8 of the world's 10 largest cities are near a coast, according to the UN Atlas of the Oceans. Climate researchers are studying a fresh set of scenarios to model the future temperatures of the planet. These research teams have been running these scenarios through the world's major climate models for the first time, providing projections of how Earth might respond to different socioeconomic pathways. These simulations will inform climate research for years to come, and will play a central part in future assessments of global warming by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. In the worst-case scenario, global emissions will double by 2050, causing temperatures to rise an average of 2.4 degrees Celsius between 2041 and 2060. In the best-case scenario, the global temperature would rise just 1.5 degrees between now and 2040. And then dip back down by the end of the century. Optimistic scenarios explore worlds in which governments join forces to advance low-carbon technologies while reducing poverty and inequality. While the answer to this question is complicated, the good news is, there's still time to stave off the worst of the climate crisis, according to a recent climate report. Scientists think it's still possible to keep global temperatures from rising above 2 degrees Celsius. Every half degree of warming avoided makes a huge difference in the intensity and frequency of extreme heat, rainfall, and drought. Even incremental reductions in emissions today would stave off more catastrophic events in the coming decades. Scientists think it's still possible to keep global temperatures from rising above 2 degrees Celsius. To achieve this, the Earth's population must reduce the flow of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. In the Paris Agreement, world leaders pledged to cut greenhouse gas emissions enough to keep global temperatures from rising more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Now, Earth's temperature is very likely to blow past that mark in the next 20 years. If we stopped emitting greenhouse gases today, the rise in global temperatures would begin to flatten within a few years. Temperatures would then plateau but remain well elevated for many, many centuries. There is a time lag between what we do and when we feel it, but that lag is less than a decade. Keep in mind, the Paris Agreement's larger goal was to avoid a 2-degree rise at all costs. Without urgent action to cut greenhouse gas emissions, the world will continue to feel the effects of a warming Arctic. Rising sea levels, changes in climate and precipitation patterns, increasing severe weather events, and loss of fish stocks, birds and marine mammals. Responding to climate change will involve a two-tier approach. First, reducing the flow of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and controlling what our emissions of carbon dioxide and other pollutants be in the years to come. Major structural changes must be pursued immediately in the way nations produce energy and food, and how they move people and goods. The warning has been sounded repeatedly by scientists, but politicians have ignored it. Second, learning to live with and adapt to the climate change that has already been set in motion. Over 100 countries have informally pledged to achieve net zero CO2 emissions. Only 2 nations, Suriname and Bhutan, have achieved it. Dozens of others have either passed or proposed legislation to do so. Others, like the United States, have done little more than talk. Standing behind the politicians who refuse to act are the corporate campaign contributions that not only sabotage the climate, but also destroy democracy. The great tragedy of the climate crisis is that 7.5 billion people must pay the price, in the form of a degraded planet, so that a couple of dozen polluting interests can continue to make record profits. It is a great moral failing of our political system that we have allowed this to happen. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for more.